Hello, hello. We are going to keep going because we're going to be determined. We've got a story to bring forward today. I am DC write-in mayoral candidate Rhonda Hamilton, and I am talking to Washingtonians on my campaign trail. Many of you know me as a mental health advocate, and many of you don't know. And so you're not voting because you don't think that there's a choice on that ballot that's going to take care of your needs and your interests. And I want you to know that that couldn't be further from the truth. I am a DC native. I am a DC resident, born and educated here. But more importantly, my mother and my father walked these streets many a days and nights. And it is with that experience that I want to come forward and help you guys understand that I'm a mayor that's of this city. I get it. We got our children's education that has to be addressed. We got folks sleeping in the street. But more importantly, I want to talk to you about something, because when you have a system that's been messed up for as long as the system that is existing here in DC, it's important that you guys know who we are when election time comes around. Because if you fall for anything, you'll never get up. You'll never stand up and speak and let your voice be heard. So I'm hoping today that you'll hear today's story, hear and resonate with our dear Washingtonian, who is a single mother, a brave soul, who's out here every day, no matter what, making it happen just like you guys are. But I'm here to tell you, it's election time. Government for the people is supposed to be about the people. Public office is supposed to always be about the issues of the community. So with that said, I want to talk to you. Our police are negligent. The guns are going off. We're constantly hearing about someone else has been killed. We're constantly hearing the mayor making excuses for members of her staff that are not accountable. She's constantly putting people in charge of these programs that are failing our citizens. And we've got to talk about it. And your vote is what's going to change that. So as a mental health advocate, I want to introduce you to some of the cases that we've been working on for the better part of 5 years. And only in an election season will you start to see the stories come out. But I want you to know something. The Washington Post, the DCist, and the newspaper stories, they're only telling half the story. You need to hear from the citizens that it's affecting. And I know that you're out there as well. So I want you to know that my campaign, Write-in Rhonda Hamilton, is about the community. I got in this race late. I came in July because I've been out in the community helping families, many like the one you're going to hear from soon. Guys, if you are a DC voter and you are witness to these programs failing, whether you work in the system, whether you are someone that's in the city that has not been able to get help, and many of you are calling me, telling me your stories, I want to expose this system. But the only way to expose this system is to give you guys a voice. You don't have to show your face, because it's not about exposing you. It's about exposing this system for what it is. And I'm hoping that those of you out there that hear these stories know that there is only one true choice. And it's not on that ballot. You've got to write me in. There's only one true choice for change. It's time that DC has a leader that cares about his citizens. I am Rhonda Hamilton, and I want to introduce you to a beautiful soul, a single mother, children on the honor roll. But a little over 2.5 years ago, it was totally different. Doesn't mean that the babies weren't still prospering, but what happens when the head of the household is dependent on services from the city, allowing these individuals to come into her home in the namesake of the city and then be violated? You heard me bring you a citizen story last week, and we talked about our disabled citizens that have to rely on the services of our care providers, who are coming in their homes and stealing things, who are accosting them, talking to them in threatening manners, basically holding them hostage. And when they call DC for help, you can't get any help. What happens when you report these negligent systemic problems? They retaliate against our citizens. So guys, I want you to sit back and really listen to the words that you're about to hear. Because if you think that DC citizens are not in jeopardy of being sexually abused, sexually advanced towards, then you are mistaken. I need you to vote because there are citizens out here who've been living with these system negligences. And now here's the election, and you read the headline as if it's just beginning. Many of you have buried your family members. This killing didn't just start. These guns didn't just start going off. They've been going off. Don't forget what we've had to live through in this pandemic. Our children, their education, our seniors. Guys, as a city, we've got to come together. But if you haven't made your mind up to vote yet, I want you to listen to today's guest testimony. And you tell me if that's not enough for you to determine that enough is enough. We must fight for all. We must look out for our neighbor because we don't have a government that's looking out for us all. Now I want you to know I got a call a little over 2.5, maybe even 3 years ago. Time has been flying. And I got a call from a very distraught community member because she saw her neighbor going through something. I'm going to introduce you to the neighbor. It's not important that you know who she is. It's not even important that you see who she is. What is important that you listen to her story. Because many of our single mothers find themselves needing the city to provide housing service, economic services. None of them expect that these workers that are working on contracts or employed by the city as case managers, care providers, or any of the like would come into their space and violate them and then not have the city step in to protect them. See, I'm frustrated, and the reason why I'm running is because trauma is real. And if you're out there and this story is familiar for you or someone you know, I don't want you to hide behind the trauma. I don't want you to feel shame. I want you to stand up and know that it's time. What will you do when you find yourself in a situation where rape may be the case and the city has sent these people into your homes telling you that they're coming to help you, and then they brush it under the rug once you speak up? Tell you that your voucher is over with or that you can't get the voucher. Have you had a case manager tell you that you have to sleep with them in order for you to get services that have already been approved by the city? Have you had to pay a case manager or care provider because they threaten you, because you have some challenges? Guys, all of this is wrong, and all of it needs to be exposed. So today's citizen found herself in a very disheartening situation. A mother of 3 girls, a male caseworker who would make sexual advances towards her. And even though it crushed her, put her through so much emotional turmoil, she held it together enough to tell somebody. She called the mayor's office. She called the program folks that were involved. And what did they do? They started trying to figure out how to brush it under the rug and how to make her feel like it was her fault. Made her feel like she did something wrong. And then put her in jeopardy of stressing out about her housing services as a result of speaking up. Those of you that don't believe in advocacy and don't know the need for advocates, you got to open your eyes and understand that we need a DC that cares about all of its citizens, because our children are depending on each and every one of us to stop the fraud, stop the abuse against DC citizens. And that's why we need you voting. And that's where I've been doing my work for the last 5 years. Thank you. Thank you so much for being so brave. I know it's been a journey, but I promised you I wouldn't stop. I promised you that we're going to get this story out. And I promised you that what's done in the dark will come to the light. So what I'd like to do is to have you talk to us about what you feel comfortable talking to us about. Help us understand something about that day and where you might have been emotionally when it presented itself, and then what you were faced with once you spoke up. Is that something you can do for us?
Well, you know, I had several case managers throughout this year journey, and
Go closer to her. Mm-hmm. Don't show her. Go closer to her. Mm-hmm.
and you know, when I first got in the program, you know, I had a conversation with a Pacific lady there about personal issues, about stuff. So I felt like, you know, out of all the 5 women that I had, why would they, you know, give me a guy all of a sudden when they knew my trauma already towards stuff like that. And they did give me a guy. He seemed cool, really cool at first. Just trying to get in, talking nice and stuff like that. And I thought he was cool until he wasn't. One day I let him in, and he put his private area on me. In that moment, you know, I didn't know what to do, what to think. I just got up, went to the room where my best friend was, and, you know, told her, like, what was happening. She immediately told me to say something. But I just told her, like, no, I can't, because I got kids. I don't know what happened. So my plan was, after I get out, like, the program, just to say something, but it was just eating at me so bad that I had to say something. So I called them, and they was emailing me back and forth and acting like they cared, and, you know, came to my house, had tape recorders. I showed them everything that they wanted from me, and then they was just treating me like I was just the victim. They didn't care after a while, but they didn't care from the beginning. And I just don't wish that on, like, nobody. That was a terrible, a long time for me, especially when nobody's listening, when you're trying to tell, you know, what's going on. And what really hurt me the most throughout the whole situation, that these were all ladies that I was expressing this stuff to. And as women, I feel like women should be more understanding and stuff like that. And nobody was. Nobody was.
Talk to us a little bit about when you reported it.
When I reported it, it just, to me, it just made everything worse. It was like a hit in the face, like, what did you do? It was just you. When I showed them everything that I possibly can to tell them, like, this is wrong, this happened, and they just swept it under the rug, and it just stressed me out so bad.
I remember trying to make sense of it. I remember when I got involved, it had been maybe a month, if not 2 months prior to the incident happening. And I just remember you immediately being told you're being released from the rapid rehousing program. And I also remember you telling me that after you went through that madness with the agency who was providing your case management services, where this gentleman was working, through a contract from the city, that you also contacted the mayor's office, right?
Yes, I emailed her. Her people emailed me back. They said they was going to get me a private investigator, which she did. And the lady came. She asked, you know, everything that happened and everything like that. I told her I was just waiting around to see what was going to happen, and it was just that she disappeared. I wrote the mayor's office again somebody wrote me back, basically telling me, not in the words that I'm going to say it,
Mm-hmm.
but basically telling me like we have nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not on us.
Mm-hmm. They got involved, did enough investigating to try to clear themselves, and then left you out here holding the bag with your emotions, raising 3 children and trying to figure out your housing. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's what was right, because, you know, throughout this whole program that I was in, you know, I never got help at all. Like, everything that I got and did, I did myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even when I asked for the card, a grocery card,
Mm-hmm.
I was told, what you gonna send me for that card? But that's supposed to be already provided through the system.
So basically, they're negotiating with you for what they can get from you in exchange for getting you this grocery card.
Yeah.
And when we talk about this, about how long ago did this occur for you?
This was literally 3 years ago.
3 years ago. And so what I want you guys to understand, that 3 years ago this occurred. 3 years ago, the mayor's office and the housing program involved investigated, left the citizen hanging with emotional baggage, trying to figure out her day-to-day, and they didn't follow up. And then when I got involved, I found out that neither one of the mayor's office nor the housing provider introduced the understanding of reporting this to MPD as a sexual crime against our citizen. Not until I got involved did our citizen get directed to go make a criminal report. I want to go back on camera, Mr. Keith. DC, the issues